I'd like to welcome everybody today, those attending via Zoom. Dr. Lester, will you lead us in the national anthem, please?
Sing out, everybody. Oh, can you see by the dawn's early cloud, what so proudly we hail, that the twilight's last gleam, through the suns and bright stars, through the perilous night, over the ramparts we march, where so gallantly stream, and the rocket's red flare, the welcome sing with they prove to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, save us as our strength and our way. Oh, land of our free, and the home of the I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alan Richards will say our prayer today.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this club, this opportunity to have fellowship together. I pray you bless this food, to nourish our bodies, to give us strength to do the works that you would have us to do. Pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
Thanks, Alan. Mr. Terry Duffy, Henry Rotary.
Thank you very much, soon to be President Josh. I was very lucky just a few moments ago before we started running the club, seeing another example of Rotarians being service well set. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this and point this out. Archie Solomon participated in making sure that DRC, through a donation, has gotten two new vans. And Paul Lee was out to receive along with a lot of their special people. So let's give Archie a big round of applause. Two beautiful vans, one bulky van, the other is an open pipe van for work. And that's really something special. Archie, thank you. No birthdays to report unless we want to rehash my birthday from Saturday, which is great. But anniversaries, and he's not here today, out of town, but anniversary is Charlotte and John Gormley on March 17th. Hope you all have a fantastic week. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. All right, Mark Kristen is going to come forward and introduce our guests and visiting Rotarians.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're happy to welcome our guests and visiting Rotarians today. So when I call your name, would you please stand and remain standing until all those are recognized. First, we have J.T. Carroll, guest of Josh Chapman. Joe Settle and Alice Settle, or is it Setty? How do you pronounce that? Setty. Okay. Guest of Mike and Sheila Azar. Thank y'all for coming. And then Kim Gant, guest of Terry Duncan. Are there any other visitors I may miss? All right. Well, thank you for visiting with us.
Thank y'all for being with us today. All right, Mr. Bogan is going to come forward with our asset drawing. All right, the last score of the winning ticket today is 5064. There are currently 466 points. All right. Oh. Jack of Spades. All right, a few announcements today. I'd like to report, this past Saturday, we had a successful John Jam event. As y'all know, we have this each spring. Proceeds go to WRC here. We had approximately 400 people attend on Saturday. Great music, great chili. The Outlaw Club won the People's Choice Award, so that's exciting. But thank you all for your support every year for John Jam. Also, it was brought to my attention that Deanne Jones of the Salvation Army, you all know her, love her, that she was given her citizenship into the United States this past Friday. So that's exciting news. All right, at this time, and past President James, I almost brought you back as president again today. Past President James, if you'll come up, as well as Mr. Maddox, you can come back up here. All right. Bear with me. Paul Harris Fellow recognition has been decorating our Rotary Foundation's passionate supporters for many years. It is a proud tradition that honors the memory of our founder, past Rotary International President Paul Harris. I believe that he would be deeply moved to see all that Rotarians and friends of our foundation have done and continue to do in the name of this beloved organization. In order to be honored as a Paul Harris Fellow, someone must contribute sums of at least $1,000 to our foundation's annual fund, Folio Plus, or approved foundation grant. These funds can be used to honor others while being applied to the amazing work that has distinguished our Rotary Foundation as an organization that provides hope, health, and peace around the world. Becoming a Paul Harris Fellow is a tremendous accomplishment, and honor multiplying that generosity multiplies the community impact made with these contributions. So much good begins with these gifts. Wells are constructed, children are vaccinated against illness, senior citizens are afforded meals and service. Children and adults are educated and given professional opportunities. This work is vital to the children, families, and communities who benefit. Only when people's basic needs are met can they pursue the larger elements of human life, including conflict resolution, community building, and peace. Paul Harris Fellows, in a very tangible way provide stepping stones to a more harmonious world. I'm pleased to honor James Etheridge and Michael Maddox, who have inspired the respect and the endorsement of dedicated supporters of our foundation. Paul Harris Fellow recognition has decorated presidents, philanthropists, and heads of state, entrepreneurs, industrialists, teachers, students, business professionals, and fellow Rotarians. A group of community-minded individuals have been honored with the recognition that today are bestowed upon James and Michael. Thank you for your stellar example of service. I welcome you to receive your multiple Paul Harris pin, which bears a number 2 for Mr. Etheridge and a number 3 for Mr. Maddox. Please join me in a round of applause for our Paul Harris Fellows who continue to put service above self. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Cal to introduce our today's speaker.
All right, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Ray Hutto. Ray is a retired Dothan firefighter and amateur historian. He's dedicated much of his retirement to exploring and uncovering the history of our local community. After retiring from the fire department in '91, Ray owned an assisted living facility for about 10 years before selling that business. He also owns a cabinet shop where he builds cabinets and furniture. But for the most part, he's now retired and splits his time between here and the beach, playing golf at Signal Hill. Despite his many interests and activities, Ray's passion for local history and genealogy remains a central focus. Through his popular Facebook pages, Some Siftings of Ray Hutto, as well as the accompanying militarily focused page, Ray has cultivated a vibrant community of history enthusiasts who regularly engage in lively discussions and share fascinating insights about our city's rich past. I greatly encourage you all to check these pages out, as there are a ton of great author posts, as well as the active group community in the comments sections. But I warn you, you can scroll and scroll for days on these pages and still not see all the great content posted over there. Ray has generously agreed to share his extensive knowledge and expertise with us today, delivering a presentation on the history of our city with a particular focus on the period from 1820 to 1920. Please help me welcome Mr. Ray Hutto.
Thank you, Cal, for inviting me. Maybe y'all get something out of this. It's good to see my old firefighting buddies back there. Again, the only difference between me and them is they were chiefs and I'm just an Indian. Michael, Don't mind? By the way, I hope I do good because I want to be invited back to that food up there.
Is this on?
It's on. Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can get this going. I couldn't find my other corner, and this one I don't like. Now I won't even like. Hey, not gonna work though. We'll try to get started anyway. Let's get this thing on. All right, this is Dothan a few years ago, which is about 200 years ago, as a matter of fact. Okay. This right here is about what Dothan looked like 200 years ago. And back then it was called Popular Head by the Indians. And there was not a lot going on. What this mostly was in the crossroads for the Indian tribes. They would trade, they'd come here and have their meet each other. And there wasn't much going on until about 1940 when the Indian Wars were about to end. And then there was people coming across the river that started migrating across the river. It was basically a meeting place for Creek and other Alabama tribes. There were a few settlers that had crossed the river from Georgia. At this time, there was an Indian fort here about halfway between Popular Head and Columbia, named the Barber Plantation. And like I said, after about 1940, when the Indians settled down, more and more settlers crossed the river. And some of them stopped at Popular Head and settled here for the virgin forest and for the harvesting of turpentine. They didn't think that the land here was suitable for farming. But around 1880, there were enough here, settlers here, so they wanted to have a post office. So they applied for a post office, but there was already a town in North Alabama that was named Popular Head, so they had to pick another name, and so they picked Dothan from the Bible. And the Popular Head, the spring is still here. I don't know if you know or not, but it's under Dothan Furniture Company. And it still flows. There's a creek that flows into called Popular Head Branch. Well, wrong way. This is probably the first photo of Dothan that was taken. It was taken from the corner of Oak Street and West Main Street. Like I say, I can't pour it out, but the two-story building there was by that building was, South Forester Street. Now, here's when things changed for Dothan in 1898. 1889, the first train came through Dothan. There was a railroad over in Georgia named the Midland Railroad, and they wanted to have a track from Bainbridge, Georgia to Montgomery, Alabama. And so, the plan was to go through Columbia, but the railroad wanted $50,000 for it to go through town, and Columbia couldn't raise the money. So there were some businessmen from Dothan that raised $46,000. And the other 4,000, a doctor had pledged 2,000, and a man that had a lumber yard pledged 2,000. So Dothan got the railroad, but they never did get the $4,000 to the two men. But this just opened up a big thing in the southeast. It would take 5 days from Dothan to Montgomery. When the railroad came through, you could go in 4 hours. And it also opened up to the east of us. You could get on the eastbound train and go to Savannah, Georgia, and get on a ship or a boat and go up anywhere up down the east coast. Back then, the rich people in Dothan, they sent their families to warm weather during the wintertime. And they would put their families on a train and go to Bainbridge, Georgia, and take the southbound train to Tampa, Florida. They'd get on a boat and they would go to Cuba for the winter. So, might take forever, though. All right, this is what we're going to be talking about mostly today. And I'm sorry I can't point it out, but if you'll notice down here at the bottom, the red little building there, across it is the courthouse. Up here on the left, the white building is the federal building. And the center is the bank, which is the lawyer's office now. And here's the Hartford Slope Railroad, is the overpass, and this is Crawford Street over here. This is about 1900, and this is at the corner of South Forester Street and East Main. The first building on the right here, the bottom is the old Bloomberg building. And then the top is a hotel, and it's named the Silver Hotel. And about the third building down on the left, on the right, was Ford Hardware. I put this slide, I had some older slides in this, but it didn't have the angle that I wanted for you to see. There used to be a railroad spur that went across North St. Andrews, and it went back there into the back of the building. There was a water tank there. Well, there's an artesian well about halfway between those two doors there on the left. And what the train, they were steam engine, and they had to have water, so they would come up and spur here and get their water, and then they'd have water for the steam engines. But that artesian well is still there. The city's just got it capped off. Here's the beginning of the Houston County. Like I said, Dothan was incorporated in 1885. In 1903, they divided Henry, Dale, and Geneva counties and made Houston County out of it. And in 1905, they built the courthouse. That's what the original courthouse looked like, and it was just about like that. You can see there's no trees or anything, so it was just being built. And so you notice the dome up there. The next slides are going to be pictures that's taken from that dome up there. And that was a Dothan Mule and Carriage Company there on the right, where the Houston County Courthouse parking lot is now. This is a picture taken from the dome of the courthouse. and it's looking south or west. And right there in front of you is the First Baptist Church. That's where Sam Cherry's law office is now. If you'll notice back there, the little black dot behind the church, that's a carriage, and that's the Hartford Slocum Railroad overpass. And you can see the power lines. Dothan has power. Probably the first ones in southern Alabama that had power, but they produce their own power. The generators, they use coal and wood fire. This is another photo taken, and it's from the Dothan courthouse. And the blue line down there is the Silver Hotel and the Bluebird on the bottom, and the street there by it, South Forester. And up there at the top of the blue arrow, that's the Fifth Street Methodist Church in Roseville School. So you can see it's pretty well populated back then. This is another view, and this is looking north. And the green arrow is just towards North Forester Street Methodist Church. And the yellow is where the federal building is going to be built in 1911. And the white mark there is Troy Street. Up there, the black is in Dixie up there where the water tank is. The red area is down there, and there's a boarding house called the Thrasher House. It's where all the drummers stayed when they came through Dothan selling their wear. And also, if they brought the wives with them, the wives could stay free. This is just another view of Dothan looking. It was taken from the Mark Hotel, which was located at East Main Street and the railroad track in the 200 block. And it was, you could see the courthouse up there, and to the left is people of the Baptist Church. And to the right over there, the three-story building, that will end up being the Watley Hotel. And down there where the wagon is, that's North St. Andrew. And over across from here to the white building, that's the Ellis building. That building's still there. Here's another one, looking on East Main Street. Hammond over there is where the bank would be built. There again is the Bloomberg building and the hotel. Over down there is a Porter's Hardware. Here's another one. This was taken from Troy and North Forester looking south. The building on the right there is the Third National Bank. But you can see it going downhill. And I don't think in any of these slides that you'll see an automobile. So most of these were taken before the automobile were invented or came to Dothan anyway. This is the bank that on the corner of North Forester and West Main. That's where the old Newberry, J.J. Newberry building would be later on. And to the left, you can see the steeple from the courthouse. There now is a parking lot for the courthouse. Things have changed. This is the bank I was telling you about. This is the Third National Bank. And if you look up there to the right by the park there, they got a ladies' waiting room. You didn't mix a lady with the men. And you see those spittoons down there at the bottom. And the savings account, it paid 3% back then.
Wow.
This is the Houston National Bank. And it was on the corner of North St. Andrews and East Main Street, where the Civic Center parking lot is now. There was a carriage, built carriage there by, there was a carriage factory, I guess you call it. This is another view looking on North Forester Street. And the steeple on the right hand side, that was the old city hall. And that's where the fire whistle was. If there was a fire, they would blow the whistle there. You can see the street light up there. And in the background on the right, you can see the First Methodist, North Forester Street Methodist Church. This is a federal building. It was built for a post office and a federal courthouse in 1911 for $80,000. And I don't know if any of y'all ever been in that building or not, but this is what some of it looks like. Even though it doesn't have electricity, I'm sure there wasn't no power for them to do this woodwork, but it's beautiful. And in the hallways and all, it's got marble. But if you've never been in there, you should stop by sometime and just take a look at the architectural work in there. And this is just a picture of West Main Street in the 200 block. You can notice there's the streets were still dirt. And by the way, later on they paved all the streets in downtown Dothan with brick. And if you go out there and take up some of the asphalt now, there's brick under there. They never took the brick up, they left it and just paved over. This is a picture of North Forster Street up in the 200 block, up above the Methodist Church, and up on the hill there is Dixie. Then we're gonna look at some early churches in Dothan. This is the First Presbyterian Church that's on the corner of Troy and North Oak Street. They had built a church there in 1898, but it burned. And so they came back in 1902 and built this church. And then in 1925, they decided to raise the wooden church, and they built a brick church. And it just so happened that I was on duty in January of 1972, and I fought that fire. It burned, and then they had moved. They already started on the building out West Main Street. I won't get into that one. That's what it looked like. It was a beautiful church. All right, if you walk down to the courthouse right now and look across the street, that's what you would have seen back in about 1910. That's the Catholic Church when you came to Dothan. After this, it moved around there across from the First Baptist Church on West Main. And then it moved out there where it is now, further out West Main, but that was the Catholic Church. This is a Cherry Street A&M church, African American church. I used to be an inspector with the fire department. I went in that building often, and it's beautiful in there. They kept it well. Nobody gets the idea of tearing that thing down. But a lot of these people, they complain about why they tear these houses down, it's because, I'll get to that in a minute, but it's probably because of money. This is right here, the one I've been talking about is the North Forster Street Methodist Church. You'll see the steeple on the right on there. But in 1925, lightning struck that building, that structure, and they called it unstable, so they tore it down to right above the windows on the right. 12 days later, lightning struck the other one and damaged it, so they had to tear it down to that first floor, above the two big windows. It was built in 1901. But it was a beautiful church. All of them were. And this is the First Baptist Church that's on the corner of South Oaks and West Main, where Sam Cherry's law office is now. Before then, it was in the 200 block of South St. Andrew. It was a wooden structure. And then they built this brick building here. You can see you and wagon there, and above it, that's where the overpass is. In 1929, they moved out there to where they are now. And this is Helen Avenue Baptist Church, up there above Dixie. It's still there, but it's they painted it, they've added on to it a lot. But that's Beulah Baptist Church. Anybody in here know what that is?
Yeah, we're a fan.
You probably don't. That's an old church fan. That's what our air conditioners were back then. Okay, this is a Lafayette Street, that's the church. On the corner of Lafayette Street and South St. Andrews. This church got started in 1905, but they met in a bar down there at the corner of Carnegie Street and South Forster Street, is where the church first started. And then I guess they got enough members that they moved up there and built the church. All right, we're gonna talk about schools now. I don't imagine any of y'all ever heard of this, but the first school in Dothan was called Dothan Academy. And it was on the corner of South St. Andrews and Washington Street. This is a photo of the graduating class of 1901, but the school was started in 1885. That's the first school. It's a beautiful school. This is Howell School, up there on North Cherry and Burnshaw Street. If they built a school there in it's the same year the church burned. In 1898, but it burned. In 1902, they built this school for $60,000. And later on during World War II, they converted this school to dormitories for soldiers. They come from Fort Rucker and Nectar Field on the weekends, the hotels would be full, and they had put cots and showers and all in there for them to spend the night in Dothan. It was during World War II. Later on, it was a pajama factory. And now they've redone it, and it's a senior citizen housing, I think. But they've added on to it a lot. This is the third school, and this is Rose Hill School. It's on the corner of South Apple Street and East Lafayette. It doesn't look anything like that now. There's a senior citizens center there now. And here's the first high school, and it was built on West Burnshaw Street, right across from the post office, behind the new library that they built. It right behind this. This is the first high school. And that's what, when they tore it down, they tore it down, they built this and N.T. Hurst School. And then it was the library, George S. Houston Library. And they tore it down and built our new library over there. I don't know if y'all remember the statue there. And his last name was Trough, T-R-O-U-G-H, I think. He carved that statue there. He carved one in every state. But that tree came from the 300 block of East Main Street, across from the grocery store down there. It used to be Woodham's IGA. But it's before you get to the new Central Fire Station. It's on the right. I remember him carving that. He was very, very talented. This is a Hutto school, and it was built in 1912 at $84,000, and it's behind. It's still there, and it's behind Porter Square Mall, and what used to be. All right, this is Southside School. This is in between South St. Andrews and South Apple Street, right across from the nursing home. As a matter of fact, that's where I went to elementary school, believe it or not. It's an art center now. This is Young Junior High School. It was named after J.R. Young, who came from Ayrton down here in the early 1800s, not 1800s, but late 1800s. And he was a very prominent man here. He was one of the first marshals in Dothan, and then he was the mayor of Dothan. And then he was president of the bank. Then he was on the school board, which they named him after. And he also, not the first pharmacy, but he opened up a pharmacy in Dothan. He's also the one that built the 5-story building downtown that's on the corner of St. Andrews and East Main. So he's very prominent in Dothan. And this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is 1927 undefeated Dothan High Tiger. They got plates and everything, I see. Then we're gonna talk about hospitals. This is a hospital, that was called the Blackshear Infirmary, and it was in the 100 block of North Forest Street. There was also, this was a turn of the century, and there was also another hospital called the Davie, D-A-V-I-E Hospital, and it was located over there on Boulevard behind the Old Flowers Hospital. This right here is the Old Flowers Hospital. That this was an old Bloomberg resident that Dr. Flowers opened up in 1950. And it caught on fire. And I wasn't on duty, but they called us in. And I remember being in that door up there behind that balcony. They tore it down after this, but the hospital had already been on new addition. And here's the Moody Hospital that was up there on North South Street. It was built by Dr. Moody. And the wing over here to the right, is the nurses, that's where their dormitories were. They tried to train to be a nurse, and that's where they stayed. I don't have a picture of the dormitory, but I don't have it with me, but I got some. And this is when he added on to it. You can see where the door is, to the right of the door. It was an addition. And they say that this is the first hospital that gave a penicillin shot in the state of Alabama. Was given at this hospital. All right, this is a Fraser Ellis Hospital that was built on South St. Andrews Street by there was two doctors, Dr. Ellis and Dr. Fraser. It was a big old, I've been in that building many times. And that's another view of it. And that's where extended care is now. Now, we're gonna talk about some housing. You know, you follow, and you see all those beautiful houses, and you follow with Dothan, and just as pretty houses lately. This is some houses that stood up there on 300 block of North Oak Street. They're not the biggest houses, but they're nice, pretty big houses. All right, this is a residence out there where the old Sears building was. And this was the Span brothers. The first two houses were the Span brothers' houses. And they owned 1,800 acres of land out west Lake. Y'all want to heard Span Farms do this. And they owned 1,800 acres out there. And they also owned a hardware store downtown behind the old Crest building. They were beautiful. Those had beautiful houses. Here's just another beautiful house. Most of these are either on without West Main or up North Forest Street. All right, this is Malone's house. There were two brothers. One of them A.Y. Malone and the other one's B.Y. Malone or something. They were two brothers, and this was one of their houses. And it was on North Forester Street. This is another one looking out West Main, some of the beautiful houses. Are there any Grant family members here? Jimmy Grant?
They normally are. They normally are, not here today, but they normally are.
And I won't tell the story. That was Grant House, and it was It was up there where, Greyhound bus station used to be on North Forester Street, and it was, it's where the, Washington Museum is now. And this is the G. Wyman home, this is his house. It was built in, 1897. Now, no, I'm sorry, this is where the, Greyhound bus station was. All right, this is what they call the boathouse. The man who built it, he loved ships. And so he built him a house that looked like a front of a ship. And it was located where, the McDonald's is on Main Street now, in West Main. About 10 or 15 years later, I guess the land became more valuable. They moved the house around on Cutler Street. And that's where it was when it was tore down. And I think that is about it, except for, you're not getting out of here without saying something about the fire department. That's the firefighter on the horse and fire, carriage, wagon, and the little dog out front. You can see the courthouse in the, way back there in the background. And take a notice of this house over here on the left. The house is still there. That little pink house. But that's it, Gail.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Hutto?
I just want to say thank you for helping take a bunch of us down memory lane.
Yeah, that was way back before our time. But it gets very interesting when it gets up in the, well, before World War II, back in the 30s and 40s. But Dothan was a rough town. There was a marshal here called Tobe Dominguez. He lived down there on South Apple Creek, but he didn't put up much. And well, when y'all heard about the riots they had in Dothan, and he was the one, he got shot 5 times. He survived. But that was all about taxes. Dothan was going to charge all the farmers tax when they come through Dothan, go into the gin. And so the farmers rebelled, and that's what that was all about. Taxes on the cotton. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hutto, for being with us today. All right, next week's program, we'll have a special program presented by Mike Conway. It'll be a tribute to past Rotarians. So please attend if you're able to. I want to say a special thanks to all those that helped with today's program: Stephen, Alan, Mark, and Demetrius. Also, thanks for all the guests and visiting Rotarians that were here today. With that, will you please stand and recite the 4-way test? Of the things we think, say, or do.
It is true, it is fair to all concerned, will it build goodwill and better friendships, will it be beneficial for all concerned.
Have a great week.